security enhancements. So it's not something, but this, it's not something unique to Epigee. It's obviously within the industry, and we've done a lot of work on this front. I'm real pleased where we are. I think we're even ahead of the curve, and a lot of people will buy and purchase the Epigee product line because of some of a lot of the security enhancements that we've added. And we will take a look at those as we go forward. All right, so let's jump over. We're going to log into, it's going to be a QX200. All right, when you initially go to connect to the system, we have a LAN port and we have a WAN port. Okay, so you'll initially connect to the system through with your PC to the LAN port. You'll connect to our default IP address. It's 172.30.0.1. All right, and you will type that into your browser, and actually before you even connect to it, you may need to set a static IP. I'm just typing it in here so you can see it. You may need a static IP on your PC, like a 172.30.0.100. Okay, that puts you in the same subnet as the QX LAN port. And then once you do that, then you can connect to the 172.30.0.1. All right, we do have we have a couple logins. There's a couple of ways of being able to log into your extension. For example, you can log in using the extension number and the extension password. I think I have this one. Let me just check it real quick. So you can log in with your extension password. This is what we call the user login. And I guess I got that one wrong. Okay, so let's try a different extension just to give you an idea. All right, so this is the user interface. I've logged in, and you can see access. We're going to look at this a little bit later in more detail. So that's the logging in with the extension, which you can enable. By default, it's turned off. And then you got the user login. There's only two logins. There's either admin or a second admin user, and it's called local admin. Local admin is disabled by default. So, and we'll show you where you can enable that as we go forward. All right, so you go log in and admin and the admin password, log into the system. And this is the dashboard. If there were any active calls, they would all be listed here in the middle of the screen. The top right-hand corner shows the time. There's a shortcut here, so you could go directly to a user's extension. Any pending events shows that you're logged in as admin, and there's your logout button. As you navigate throughout the system, you will see a help page that will follow you. Click on it, and it will provide information on that page. There's also a drop-down with the feature codes. So as you're beginning to get familiar with the system, you also want to have the feature codes at your fingertips, and has things like how to access voicemail, *0, and click on any one of these, and it'll give you more information. For example, also you can click on the top tabs here. So if you need more information on the auto tenant, you can click on that, and it'll show you the feature codes that are available. Bottom right shows me the firmware version. I'm actually running a test version 6.2.7. Okay, so it has some enhancements in it that I've been looking at. And you can be logged in. It shows I'm logged in as admin. It shows me my IP address. You can log in multiple users, so you can have admin logged in. Three different users can be logged in as admin, doing different things within the menu or within the system, as long as they're not accessing the same wizard, for example, like the call routing wizard. All right, so let's start with the setup, the basic setup. how to configure the LAN port, and then also the WAN port. All right, this is a basic setup. When you first access any of these menus here on the left, you can see that the main groupings here on the left. We're clicked on Setup, and when you first click on it, it'll take you to an overview page, and then you can see what's in each one of these. For example, the top tab has Basic Setup, and I can click on any one of these and readily access it. It has a little description of what's on that menu. So you can either click on it right here, or you can click at the top where it says Basic Setup, and then it takes you to the first tab. In this case, the System Configuration Wizard. So we're gonna, in this wizard, we're gonna configure the couple basic PBX settings as well as the LAN interface. So if we click Next, it takes us through the wizard. The host name, you're going to be applicable to something to the customer, something that you're going to recognize it. So when you log in, and that information will be displayed. It's also displayed when you go to download any of the some of your files, your configuration files, and things like that. That name, host name, will be appended to the file name. Then you have the IP address 172.30.0.1. That's the default IP of the system. You can change it if needed. You can enable the DHCP server, so that way the next time you connect on the LAN interface, where system will provide you an IP, and you won't need to hard code a static IP on your computer. Put in your location and your time zone, Central Time. Any emergency codes, for example, like 911. You can add those. I prefer to leave those, delete those. I think by default there's a 911 code there, and there's also a dial 9 access code. But I prefer to delete those, and I add those in later. By adding them here, it will create a route in your call routing table, and that call routing entry, it will go directly to the FXO port. So if you're just using SIP trunks, not using FXOs, then you're going to want to add those in manually later. All right, and then you get to the summary page. You finish, and it will go through. It'll check all your settings, and it comes back with a confirmation button. So you have to confirm your settings. You have 20 minutes. If you don't confirm within 20 minutes, it will roll back to your previous settings. Just keep that in mind. If you change the IP address, you'll need to reconnect to the system with the new IP address, and then you'll confirm your settings. All right, next is the WAN configuration wizard, or Internet Configuration Wizard as we refer to it. So here you're going to configure the WAN port. Okay, you're just going to leave it at the default. Leave it at the maximum upstream downstream bandwidth. And this is going to be the IP address of the WAN port. It can get an IP address automatically through DHCP, or you can hard code a static IP address in there, where you'll provide the IP, the subnet mask, and the default gateway. All right, the MAC address for the units. The DNS server for resolving names, for example, like www.epigee.com. It'll need to access the provider's DNS settings. All right, so again, you finish your settings, and then you have to confirm that. Next is your date and time settings. So this is has the current time. I can't change it. Okay, the reason I'm not able to change it is because I've configured my system to go out. It's acting as a client, and it's going out to contact our server, ntp1.epigee.com, to get the latest time, and it will pull that for the latest time every 6 hours and adjust the system time accordingly. So if I need to adjust this time manually, I would need to turn that off. All right, you can add other servers in here. You don't have to use ours, but there's a list of them. You can add your own, many out there. Here's your SMTP settings for accessing, for sending, this is the system email account. Okay, there's a lot of opportunities for the system to send out an email. The voicemail to email feature is one of them, and there's a lot of people that obviously they're using that. So before that feature will work, you need to configure the system with an email account that the system will use to originate that email and send it on to the person's personal email account. All right, the personal email account is configured obviously at the extension level, but this is the system email account. If you're using Gmail, it's smtp.gmail.com. It's the port number that they're using. For my account, it's 587. The email sender address, this is the actual account that the system will be using. And there's a recipient address. It just so happens I'm using the same. But the recipient address is going to be any time the system generates, say, like an event log or a notification or something like that. It can send those to anybody that's listed on this recipient address. You can add more than one by putting a comma there. And actually, there's a CC address here. If it requires authentication, do so and put in the email address and password. All right, there's also the system can send out a text message using the SMS settings. So you'll need to configure the system to work with a provider that's going to send out those SMS text messages to all the cell phone providers. All right, I've been testing here lately with Clickatel. They've got a service. It's a paid service. You can go in and they're gonna you can sign up with them, and they're gonna give you an API ID, and they'll send out the text messages to your to the cell phones. System security. All right, this is there's 3 settings: low, medium, and high. Not to be confused with your firewall settings on the system, which are also low, medium, and high. But the settings here are going to define the security level in the system. In other words, whenever it prompts you to enter a password, you're going to enter a good strong password based on the settings here. So for example, if I'm configuring an IP phone, it's going to make me enter a good strong password because I have it set to medium. All right, it's also going to want to run, you can run a security audit, and it will also check to make sure everybody, all the phones meet that minimum criteria of medium. So if you're in there and trying to configure a test phone in your lab, a test environment, and you're trying to enter a password like 1234 and it's not taking it, it won't accept it. First, you need to come back here, set the security level to low, and then you can go back and add that simple password. Otherwise, it's not going to allow you. And I'll show you what I mean by that when we look at the IP phones. Licenses. Okay, so you can see I've got several licenses that I've added here in the system. Most of these the system's going to come default with all the basic features, most everything that most of your customers are going to need, but there's going to always be some enhancements. Maybe they want to grow the number of phones that are available in the system. So for that, you can add an IP phone expansion key, license key, say for example like 40 users. All right, so the way that the licensing works is it's very simple.